Hey, good morning from Kansas City, and welcome to SportsBeat Live, the Kansas City Stars weekly interactive show where we talk Royals with the reporters who know them best and with you. So send your questions and comments about the Royals and about baseball to us, and we will get to as many as we can. Let's welcome in beat writer Lynn Worthy. Lynn, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good, good, good. And in the spirit, here I am. I'm thinking that we were going to overpromise and underdeliver, but no, Sam Mellinger is here. Hey, Sam.
What's up? I just had a little problem logging in, but thanks to my advanced technological skills, very advanced. I want to stress that I'm in now.
Okay. Well, we're all thankful for that. And it's good to see you. I thought we would start today with some of the bigger news of the week with the Royals, and that is the extension given to Royals third baseman Hunter Dozier, and 4 years, $25 million. That happened several days ago. We haven't talked about it since our last show, so what we're going to do is hear from Dozier and Royals general manager Dayton Moore. Let's play that tape now.
I want to thank Dayton, Mr. Sherman, the whole front office. I truly believe that the Royals is the best organization in all of sports, and it's because of this guy sitting next to me. Thank you for taking a chance on me back in 2013 and just having confidence in me throughout this whole baseball, minor leagues, big leagues, and stuff like that.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, we spoke not too long ago, and you were talking about just sort of the trust you had in the organization, when you were talking about sort of, being willing to move around and do different things, and that part of that being because of the trust. Does a day like this sort of reinforce that for you? How big a deal was this for you to, as far as the trust, but also just to sort of get that security going forward?
Yeah, it's a big day for me and my family. Like I told you, I trust Dayton in the front office and our coaching staff. I know we were talking about positions and stuff, and like I told you, whatever they feel that's best for the team, like I said, I want to win. So wherever they think I'm best fit for the team at that point, I'm all for it. And for the extension, it kind of takes the I'm not a big fan of the business side of the baseball. You grow up loving this game just because you love baseball. And then as you get drafted, the business side does come in to it, and it's a blessing because you can provide for your family. So now I can kind of not think about the business side of baseball and just really focus on winning and having fun and doing whatever I can to help that team win. And we're going to do a lot of winning. I can promise you that.
Okay, I promised some sound from Dayton Moore there. He was there. We didn't hear from Dayton, though. That's my bad editing skills at work. But I thought a couple of interesting points to make here, Lynn. First of all, calling the Royals the best organization in all of sports. I thought, it's quite the compliment from Hunter Dozier and his eagerness to win. And I think he speaks for just about every baseball player I've ever talked to, that they're pretty happy to get the business end of baseball out of the way as quickly and without as much fuss as they possibly can. Did you get that feeling from talking to Hunter?
Yeah, and I'd say if they gave me $25 million, I'd be pretty high on the organization as well. So that's not too surprising. But the only organization that he's known, the fact that they're I think we've talked about it, written about it, all that sort of thing. They care about players, and I think he really feels that, and he really feels the trust for the front office and Dayton Moore. So that's what you see coming through. But also, they didn't have to do this at this point. It's good for both sides, but he still had arbitration. He was still under control for a couple more seasons after this year. So getting this out of the way so he didn't have to worry. I think he didn't necessarily say it, but I remember going back to when Whit Merrifield signed his extension. One of the things he said was that it sort of freed him up to not so much worry about achieving particular numbers or stats or anything like that, and just worrying about being able to contribute to wins because you knew the business side was taken care of for at least a set period of time.
Sam, did the numbers, the length and the number sound fair? Market value?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like just the money, I think it's a pretty typical deal where Dozier probably, if he just plays it out and we just expect a reasonable, not for him to blow up and not for him to collapse, but a reasonable progression, he probably would have made a little bit more money through the ARB years. But if you're in that situation, it's pretty hard to turn down the guaranteed money, at 90% of what you might get. You know what I mean? Like there's just a little bit of an insurance policy. What I think is really interesting about this deal, and Lynn just touched on it, but I just want to emphasize that there was a reasonable case for both sides not to do this deal, right? For Hunter, just what I just said, he probably could have made, $3, $4, $5 million more. That's kind of the projections. $3, $4, $5 million more if he would have played it out. And for the Royals, they already had him under club control for a few more years, and he's 29. He's going to turn 30. It is logical to believe that his best seasons will be before his previously scheduled free agency. So it's almost like the Royals are in some ways doing him a favor too, of extending a little bit more, guaranteeing him the money. And it's because of what Lynn just said. It's because of what Hunter was saying. Hunter Dozier, you're right, like just got $25 million from this team, his only known one professional organization. He is a very, not unbiased source on, ranking the best organizations in professional sports. But the important thing is that he believes it. That's the important part. It's not why he believes it, but it's just that he believes it. And he believes it for all those reasons that he's talked about. I mean, he's had some struggles. And for him to call, I know he debuted in 2016, right? But basically his 3 seasons are 103 losses, 104 losses, and then, the pace last year, which would have been like 90, 94, something like that. So for him to say those words, best organization in sports, I mean, that's the Royals are overcoming a lot in how they treat him as a human for him to say that.
I'll tell you, the Royals treat their humans very well, though. Do they not? And we saw that last year. I think exemplified during all the uncertainty, how they were out front in making sure their minor leaguers were paid and whatnot. And look, again, owing to my poor editing skills, we did. Dayton Moore did say during this this press conference that. It's a great day for the Royals organization when they have press conferences like that. And I can remember being there for the first Salvador Perez extension back, I don't know, maybe it was in 2016 and a couple of others. And they really, they really do turn those into celebratory moments and make a big deal. A lot of them happened at spring training and they make a big deal of it. So I guess my question is who might be next in line for a contract extension that's on the Royals roster now? Lynn, how about can you speculate on that? What who might be next? The next press conference might feature whom?
Well, since we're going down the road of reckless speculation, I'll say I've already
totally reckless speculation.
Yeah. Well, and I've already sort of done it in print anyway. So the person who comes to mind is Salvador Perez for me. Because he's going to be up at free agency at the end of this year. And I wrote something a few weeks back just talking about, we saw this offseason was sort of billed as a big offseason for catchers with Real Muto and, James McCann and Yadier Molina being a free agent and ultimately returning to St. Louis. So what that might mean for Salvi. And I think that's the next one because he's sort of, and maybe this is just me thinking this way, but I feel like he's the next one that's in that mold of, Alex Gordon, the tie to that championship team, a guy who's been a career Royal who, you want to keep in-house maybe and be your face of the franchise, homegrown superstar. And with free agency coming up at the end of this year, I feel like he's probably the next one up.
How about Brad Keller? Would he be? Is this somebody that you think the Royals would consider? Is it time for the Royals to consider a longer term deal for him?
They could. I like Brad Kelly. He's got a lot to believe in, and he's kind of a weird pitcher because just the numbers profile doesn't make sense. He doesn't strike guys out and all that. But if you just watch the games and watch the swings and watch the contact against him, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to win the Cy Young Award this year or next year or whatever, but he's got sort of potential like front of the rotation kind of production. I think he's a guy you can believe in. The Royals would, I mean, Lynn is right. They would love to get Sal done. And I kind of feel like because of what he just mentioned, Lynn did about he's a free agent at the end of the season. It's almost like if they don't get something done by the end of spring training, probably going to hit free agency. And once you hit free agency, it's kind of hard to get those guys back. Depending on the market. And he'll have a weird market. There'll be some teams that are in love with him, and there'll be a lot of teams probably that don't want him because of the body, because of the position, the age, all those things. That's an interesting one. And I also think the Royals would like to get Mondesi done. That there's some complications there. A lot of complications there. Is he September of last year, or is he July and August? And I think, the deal will probably be somewhere in between. But that's another guy I think the Royals would like to get done. But probably a long shot. I don't know that, that'll get done in the next month or whatever.
Since you just mentioned him, Sam, what's the latest on Mondesi's foot injury, Lynn? Is it the one player you didn't want to hear about having an injury at spring training, and Mondesi comes up with a foot injury? Are they expecting him back pretty soon?
The last that we heard was that he could even be seeing some game action maybe later this week. Haven't gotten an update, today or the last 24 hours, anything like that. But I mean, I was, I'm in KC now, but I was in Arizona last week, and he was taking part. It wasn't like he was sidelined. I mean, he was doing the infield drills. He was doing live ABs. I think they're just being Mike Matheny had said that they were being cautious about him running because speed's such a big part of his game, and it's so early that they just don't feel like pushing it with that foot. And it was, he took the understanding was he took a live pitch off of the foot before he came to camp, just doing work and stuff. So, I mean, he's been taking part in everything, at least during that first week of full squad. So it doesn't sound like it's serious. It sounds like they're being more careful than anything.
Good to know. Okay, we're going to let Mark Schremer take us into our next topic, and that is, what is a realistic expectation of Jarrod Dyson's role this season, and what does that mean for Bubba Starling? Yes, the news of the last couple of days, the Royals looks like they're going to sign Dyson to a one-year deal pending a physical and getting the band back together. We've got Greg Holland back on a one-year deal. Wade Davis is in camp, joining Danny Duffy and Salvador Perez as players that were part of the 2014 and 2015 season. I believe now that the Royals have in camp more players from those years than they did on the roster last year. So what is the expectation and the role for Jarrod Dyson? What are you hearing about that, Lynn?
Well, the deal still isn't officially done yet, so it'll be, it's hard to get anybody to, say anything right now, but it will be interesting to see what that does for some of the younger guys. I mean, like I had asked about, guys like an Edward Olivares or Nick Heath, and whether they would try and stay away from having those guys as bench guys because they're as young as they are and could maybe benefit from playing on a regular basis when there's an actual minor league baseball season going on. And the answer was sort of, well, it depends on how the roster shakes out. And, but I think even when Dayton addressed it, he said, well, yeah, historically, we don't want, these young guys we feel like are still developing to be bench guys. And so I think if it means that, Heath and Olivares and Isbell are playing every day at AAA, then that's probably a good thing, for the Royals for the future. And you have a guy that you can count on, a guy that obviously hasn't played at the same level that you saw in the past in this last year or so. But I mean, as far as a dependable guy, speed guy, defensively, could be a good, useful fourth outfielder, fifth outfielder, depending on how they want to fill out their bench.
Certainly, pinch runner and. Just bring some intangibles to the and leadership in the clubhouse for the Royals. And Sam, I When I started hearing about this the other night, I immediately went to YouTube and played some Fetty Wap, and just to because I'm young and hip,
As one does.
first of all, and but also to be reminded of the Royals clubhouses in those years. It'd be fun to have back, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, one thing about the Royals, they're not the only team that operates like this, but they are probably an outlier just in how much they believe in it. It is specific, like how pieces fit together. They want, this is bad memories for people watching, but like Scott Pioli always used to say, it's not the best 53, it's the right 53. And Dayton's never said it's not the best 26, it's the right 26, but there's some of that going on. I think that they wanted more speed. And look, Dyson's 36, and depending, there's metrics everywhere that say that he's not quite as fast as he used to be. But they wanted somebody that could cover some ground, that could go get it in a big outfield. A little bit of an insurance policy, somebody that's won. They believe in, that's part of. It's not the biggest part. I'm not saying that, but that's part of the attraction to Benintendi, to Carlos Santana. Michael Taylor has experience, on winning teams. Like they believe in that. They believe this group. We were just talking about Hunter Dozier, that is enough of a central figure of this team that they gave him a long-term deal, but has also never played on a team that hasn't been bad. That hasn't been buried in the standings. So they want to jumpstart that a little bit. It's an interesting deal. I don't think Dyson's not going to have a huge role, right? Like I think he had like 10 hits last year. But it's an interesting piece and certainly a fan favorite.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what becomes of the innings of Nick Heath, of Bubba Starling, what their status becomes with this. I didn't expect it. I just thought that was kind of an interesting acquisition for the Royals. But
it's particularly interesting with Heath. Like you mentioned Heath, because that's a guy, and Lynn's heard the same things, I'm sure, but for a few years now, when they talk about Nick Heath, Dyson's name comes up, like this is Dyson. And if you're Nick Heath, if you're Bubba Starling, I mean, I know it's a business and everybody's trying to compete and all that, but it would be hard not to see that as sort of a lack of confidence.
But and I think with Heath, and I mean, I'm sure he wants to play. I mean, everybody wants to play. That's not breaking news there, but wants to be on the big league team. But if it comes down, at least for the future, for him playing every day and getting better, and I'm trying to remember how much time he had at AAA in 2019, because he didn't spend the whole year there. So if it means getting that experience so that when he gets up there, maybe he's further along, or being on the big league team for a whole season and getting used as a pinch runner twice a week or something like that, then for the long term, it's probably better for him. But I mean, I'm sure he wants to be in the big leagues.
Sure.
And you're not really losing much using Dyson in that role, because he's already, he is what he's going to be, where Heath may still have some upside.
Okay, the games have started, and I think there were 4 or 5 in on having been played. The Royals are at Goodyear today playing the Cincinnati Reds, and that means we're getting a look at some of these young pitchers like Daniel Lynch. Let's hear what he had to say after his appearance. I think he was against the Cubs a few days ago.
Well, I just realized when I got out there that this is the first real baseball game I've pitched in almost a full year. So that's different. But I mean, I think I know what I need to do a little bit more. And I mean, I wouldn't say the approach is different. I'm always going to try to go out there and throw the ball well. I definitely have a better outlook on it. As far as like not freaking out when things don't go the right way. It's all good. But I'm gonna go into next week and try to be better, and that's all you can really do. So I wouldn't say my approach is any different. I guess maybe I'm just a little bit more mature in the way that I see things.
So it was 1 2/3 innings, and I think he got through the first inning pretty well. It was the second inning that he pitched that they gave up 3 runs. But I had he reminded us that he never faced major league batters outside of the development at T-Bone Stadium last year, and and hadn't pitched in a real baseball game in more than a year. So we kind of have to keep that in mind when we're evaluating and observing these young pitchers, don't we, Lynn?
Yeah, and with Lynch specifically, and actually, I think it may be up now. Actually, a story that we did, or that I did recently. I got talked to him when I was in Arizona. Got some one-on-one time with him, and it's interesting because Mike Matheny from early in Pitchers and Catchers talked about how he looked like a different guy from last year when he was, in camp for the first time back in, before the pandemic, and just more confident and he had more of a presence. And he thought that, just seeing Singer, Bubic get there last year changed some things for him. And so then when I got to talk to him, like it seemed to me like it really did. Like he really, like, I think he said to me that seeing them get there let him know that he was really close. I mean, like he probably sort of sensed that anyway, but I mean, like he was saying, I drove Chris home the day that he got called up, so like it became real for him. And I think it changed the way he approached just the work in that alternate site. And, whether it's Paul Gibson, their director of pitching performance, or JJ Piccolo or Mike Matheny, everybody has seen stride. So I'm not putting too much into that outing the other day, but it sounds like there's a real difference in him. And I mean, the potential's there. I mean, he's one of the top pitching prospects in all baseball. Anybody who's stepped in the box or seen him throw from the big league team has just been wowed by what he can do. It's just consistency is what he's trying to get to. And I think he's gotten closer from what you hear this year.
That outing was really interesting too. It was because he was nails the first inning. I mean, he looked great, and striking out accomplished big league hitters with 98. He looked great, and then the second inning he did falter a little bit. But I don't know if I would have thought about this as much. But the clip that Beth just played of him saying, it was the first time I've pitched in a real game in almost a year. So that was different. That was just a funny way for him to say it. But there was a guy in the stands at Sloan Park. And I don't know if the guy had too much to drink or whatever, but this guy, you can hear limited crowds. Like you can hear specific. This guy was wearing Lynch out in the second inning. I don't know if Lynch could hear it. I'm sure he could hear it. I don't know if he was paying attention to it or anything, but it's got to be a little bit stunning. I mean, it's not the first time Lynch has been heckled. You don't get to this level without, coming into contact with some idiot in the stands, right? But it was just, when he said it like that, I just wonder if that was part of what he was thinking about. There's a lot of just little things that you can develop, and you can do other things at T-Bones Park, and there's some advantages to be over there actually. But I mean, there's some stuff that goes on in real games that you can't prepare for unless you're in real games.
I wonder if he was a Virginia Tech fan. Didn't Lynch go to UVA?
Yeah, he's a Virginia kid. Yeah, it's it's going to be interesting to see how some of these guys, like even when we talk about Singer and Bubic, they haven't pitched in ballparks with actual fans in them. Last year, I mean, even I think trying to remember what Singer had, I think maybe 12 starts and Bubic 10 starts, but those are big league starts against big league hitters in big league ballparks, but there hasn't been the atmosphere, the fans, there hasn't been, quite the buildup in the atmosphere. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, especially over an extended season.
Well, and they're not going to be able to pitch in front of fans if baseball announced this week that the AAA season's not going to, it's been delayed, right? It's not going to start until May. And so the Royals are going back to the alternative site, whether that's going to be at the ballpark where now the Kansas City Monarchs are going to play or somewhere else. But all of a sudden, that's thrown a little bit of a wrench in the proceedings, hasn't it, Lynn? That it looks like AAA is going to start about the same time as AA and Single A, which is 1st of May.
Yeah, I mean, it will. It's going to change things a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, like they knew there's going to be a period of time. There's going to be some sort of a gap between when camp ends for the big league team and when these guys start playing, minor league games. Like that was always going to be. I mean, even because minor league camp starts later. I mean, so some of these guys were going to be there for big league camp, and if they didn't make the big league team, we're going to be working out and throwing and having to stay, ready and stretched out and all of that. until the minor league season started. So, I mean, there was things in place that, I mean, it's not a total shock, I don't think. I think there was people who knew that was probably the case, even though the AAA season, at least until, this week, wasn't technically pushed back. I think that was something that people were ready for.
Okay, and speaking of one-on-one time, Lynn, you mentioned that with Daniel Lynch. You also got some one-on-one time with Bobby Witt Jr. at when you were in Surprise, and he had some good at bats yesterday. I noticed in the box score. I didn't get to see the game, but what anything that he said stand out to you? What were your impressions of Bobby Witt Jr. When you were in Surprise?
The first thing, not that he said, but the first thing that just sort of stood out to me was just that he's gotten bigger. I mean, it's not, obviously it's gonna happen, but when he got drafted, so like the day after he got drafted by the Royals, I went to his house and met him down in Texas because the Royals happened to be playing the Rangers just before that. And you could see the frame there. And so now we're 2 years later, and I noticed a little bit last year. We didn't get, real close to players last year, but there were arms there, and now there's shoulders, there's a chest there. They were going from one field to the other during workouts in Arizona, and he said hi to me, and he had the mask on because all the protocols and everything. It took me a second to realize, oh, wait a minute, that's Bobby. I was like, oh. Okay. So, I mean, and it's not a bulk thing. Like, he's not trying to get huge. It was just, he's filling out that frame that obviously we've seen. But from talking to him, I think he's a real humble kid, and he just loves playing baseball, and he's still got that childlike thing. But I think he also realizes he's getting closer. And it's kind of weird because, he still only played, I think it was 37 games at rookie ball. That's the extent of his minor league experience, but he's definitely getting closer. I mean, between the alternate site, between summer camp, spring training 2.0 last year, between being in camp this year, I think he feels it. Like, he's not in a rush or anything, but I think he feels like, he wants it, and he just the experiences he's had against big league guys. He's talked about how those experiences are, he almost steps it up a little bit just because he's, looked up to those guys for so long, and playing in those big spots seems to be what he thrives on, even for a young kid.
Maybe sometime after the All-Star break, we see Bobby Witt Jr. At Kauffman Stadium, Sam.
I don't know. I think that they might be slower than some fans think. I think with these guys, I think they've got a history of this too, but I think they'd rather be a month late than a month early, and what Lynn said, I mean, he's still 20 years old. He doesn't turn 21 until, was it June or July?
June. Yeah.
Yeah. And what Lynn just said, I mean, the extent of his professional experience is 37 games in rookie ball, and then whatever we got from spring training. So, what I would not be surprised at is if he starts in Double-A, and then, once you're in Double-A, you're on the radar. But I don't think they're going to be in a hurry to promote him. I think back to, Eric Hosmer, for instance. I mean, they wanted to take him slower even than they did, but the guy was hitting like 440 or something in May, and he was making a joke out of AAA. So if Bobby Witt Jr. can do something like that, then maybe so. But I don't think they're in a rush to bring him up, and I'd put Asa Lacy in that same category too. I almost think they're gonna. I know you didn't ask about Lacy, but it seems like they might treat this like Asa Lacy's, a junior in college still or something like that, because it sucks. Like, they just an entire year was just wiped out of development, and everybody's on the same playing field. I get that, but the Royals, where they are in their development, kind of needed that minor league time more than most, and it's a problem. But I think they're going to end up being a little bit more cautious than some people might think.
Yeah, and with Lacy, I mean, and nobody's told me this, but I don't feel like there's any chance you see him this year. I mean, I'm not expecting it. I mean, I think because he had a shortened college season, he got, I think he was there for fall camp, but even part of fall camp was interrupted for him last year because he had some sort of an eye thing that they had to get taken care of. So that I think there was like a 10-day period where he didn't do anything in fall camp. And so to go from that and whatever training he did on his own last year after the shortened college season and draft and everything, and then to say, we're going to get you in big league games the next year, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
With Bobby, I feel like I agree with, Sam in that, AA is probably more realistic, and I don't know that you see him in the big leagues this year. And I don't think that's a bad thing either. I mean, it might just be because I covered a lot of AA baseball, for years in different places, and it just that's a challenging level. I mean, it's not big league ball, and so people just sort of like, all right, whatever, AA. But I mean, like, there's guys who are really good who have to figure some things out at AA, and I think if that happens with Bobby, it's better it happens there than he never has any bumps in the road, then gets to the big leagues and then has some trouble and then has to figure it out at that level.
Yep. Yeah, there's big league talent at AA. They're not big league players, but there's big league talent there. That stuff is real.
Okay, hey, I blew the Dayton Moore part of the Hunter Dozier interview earlier in the show. I don't want to mess this one up. I wanted to get to this Whit Merrifield audio that was from late last week. I just thought it was interesting and wanted to get a thought from you guys on it. So let's hear quickly from Whit Merrifield.
There's not many guys that can just come up here and rely on what they've got to be successful. Guys are going to adjust to you, and it's up to you to turn around and make that adjustment back.
Wait, touching off what you were talking about earlier, about the expectation to win and make the playoffs. How would you describe the culture in Kansas City from the front office down? Because I think from a national perspective, some people were a little surprised they went out and they got Santana and Minor and Benintendi, because a lot of teams, retreat and stay down for a while. What is it about the Royals that they're kind of an exception to that?
Well, that's a problem that people were surprised that we did that. Everybody should do that. Everybody should go out every year and do what they can to make their team the best they can. And our ownership and our front office understands that. And we're very fortunate here to have a front office ownership that understand that this is a very small window. Players get to play in the big leagues. Coaches get to be here. You got really one shot at it. Why not go out every year and put together the best team you can to be successful? Obviously, teams are going to have their budgets or whatever you want to call it, but there's no reason to not go out and try to win every year.
I thought that was interesting. It was maybe a little more diplomatic way of saying what Clayton Kershaw said last week as well. What do you think about that, Sam?
That is, I don't know if Kershaw is the Dodgers rep, but that is that's Whit Merrifield Players Union rep coming out right there. That's what that is. Whit is, he's really smart, first of all, but there's smart people in baseball that don't like to think about this stuff. And Whit is both smart and likes to think about this stuff and express himself. And he's been outspoken on this for years about, that we hear sometimes about, this growing divide between the union and owners, and Whit is very much a part of that. And the tank stuff drives him crazy, absolutely drives him crazy. And he's right. Like you get one window. That's kind of one of the frustrating things about, and this is just inherent in every sport, but the players have a much smaller window than these owners. And, for him, God, let's get going. Let's put the, pedal down and everybody try to win. And he gets really frustrated when he sees teams that aren't doing that.
Okay. Listen, Lynn and Sam, I really appreciate you joining us. David Van Zandt, thanks for switching from the Chiefs to the Royals. SportsBeat Live, and keep watching us. We'll be on every week with the Royals. Mark Schremer, we're going to get to this thought about Bo Jackson next week, because if you look behind, right on Sam's wall,
I'm not unbiased here.
No, Sam does not.
Hunter Dozier talking about the Royals.
Sam doesn't waffle on his Bo Jackson opinions, and I promise you we will get to that soon. So, Lynn, Sam, Beth Welsh, thanks a lot, and we will talk to you guys again next week.
Thanks, Blair. Thanks, Beth.